In this video, we're going to show you how to install the lower control arm on your Toyota Camry located in your front suspension. Using our 21mm socket, we're going to loosen and remove the lug nuts. Remove the wheel and set it aside. Now with the wheel removed, we want to go ahead and loosen and remove our axle nut. Now the axle nut will have a dimple, or normally have a dimple, to keep the nut from backing off. Go ahead and use a punch or a chisel tip here to go ahead and undo that rolled piece here. Now we're going to use our 30mm 12-point socket to loosen and remove the axle nut. Next thing we want to do is we want to make sure that our axle is free inside of our hub splines. So normally you can push on this and see if that will push in. This here should slide in and out. If it doesn't want to, you can go ahead and take a punch, put it in here. And you can see that it's starting to move. You can reach around the backside, grab that axle, and we should be able to push and pull. Just like that. That's what we want. If for some reason it doesn't want to move, go ahead and spray this down with some rust penetrant, let it soak, repeat the process until we can go ahead and get it to move like so. Now to remove our control arm on the driver's side, there's going to be a rear bolt that goes upward. Now it is behind the splash shield here. We're going to remove the driver's side lower splash shield. It's going to be a series of plastic screws and bolts holding this in place. We're going to start with our 10mm socket and remove these three 10mm bolts on the front portion. Let's go ahead and remove this 10mm plastic nut. Now we're going to have 4 of these plastic screw type units here. You're going to use your Phillips head screwdriver. Sometimes you can reach up and just grab it by your fingers and unthread it, but there's going to be 4. There's one here. There's one over here. And then there's 2 in the back, here and here. Let's go ahead and remove the first one. Here we go, and it's going to stay in place. Let's go and repeat for the other 3. There's going to be 4 of these plastic push pins here. These are locking style. There's going to be 1 here, and then there's 2 more right down the middle, here and here down in the back. And then the 4th and last one here is going to be inboard portion or inboard section right by the cross brace here. And we're going to use our trim tool, pop out the center section, and once that comes out, then the base will come out with it, just like so. Repeat this process for the other 3. Now at this point here, I'm holding the shield itself, and we do have access to that control arm bolt. However, if we leave this hanging, it risks breaking this. So just go ahead and finish removing this. In order to do so, we have 2 last plastic nuts. There's one here in the center, or inboard, and then we have one over here, outboard, and these are 12mm. I'm gonna go ahead and loosen and remove these. I'm gonna apply upward pressure on the splash shield, and then carefully drop that down and set it down. I want to go ahead and remove this cover here. It's going to be 2 10mm screws here and then a plastic push pin. Let's go ahead and use our socket here to remove these. I'm going to use our trim tool to pop this out. So you want to get in to the center, pop out the middle, and then we pop out the base, and then pull that cover off and set it aside. There are 2 studs pointing downward here, and then 1 bolt going up. 17mm on the 2 nuts, 17mm on the bolt head. Let's loosen and remove these. I'm going to pull down on a control arm and pull the ball joint base out. Now that we have our ball joint separated, let's move to the back section here of our control arm. And there's a 19mm bolt here. Let's go ahead and loosen and remove it. Now that we have our bolt out here, let's go ahead and move to the front portion of the control arm. I'm going to use our 22 millimeter box and wrench here. Now there's two bolts. There's one here. There's one on the back side we need to go ahead, loosen, and remove. I'm going to go to the other bolt on the back side here. I want to go ahead and do the same here. I want to go ahead and loosen this one. This one here is a little bit harder to get to. And we just switch over to our ratchet to go ahead and loosen these up a little bit quicker. Now that we have our hardware out, go ahead and grab that control arm and remove it. With the control arm out, on the inboard portion here, you're going to have this little bracket or little unit here. I want to swap this over to the new component. Go ahead and take the control arm. I'm going to slide this into position. Now in general, we like to get our control arm lined up in here. Don't forget to install your little bracket on the sleeve in the back here. Now at this point here, we want to go ahead and install the two bolts on the forward portion of our control arm. This is before we install the ball joint. That way there we can go ahead and level off the front portion of the control arm. That's going to help us get a better access to this port here. Otherwise, this here will be tilted too far down and you won't be able to get the bolt in. So we're going to go ahead and grab the knuckle assembly, pull that out a little bit, wiggle this around. Now once we get this bolt here started, a few threads, let's go ahead and install the bolt on the back side over here. Let's go ahead and install that back bolt. Now the controller might have to get shifted just a little bit. Now what I'm doing is I'm taking my screwdriver here. You can use an awl or whatever you have. Go ahead and put it inside the rear bushing here. And normally you can shift the control arm around just a little bit. You can see the bolt moving right here as I move this here. That's going to help us line that up. Wiggle it around so we can get that bolt started. Now we want to get the rear bolt lined up. We're going to use a pry bar, and basically what we need to do is kind of maneuver the control arm back and forth to get this to line up. So between the subframe and the control arm, just kind of any way you can kind of get that bar in there. Now we're going to use our pull jack underneath the ball joint area to go ahead and compress our suspension up. As we raise this up, the inboard two bolts on the front portion of that control arm should start to level off a little bit on that bushing area. With that leveled off, we can go in and start to tighten these down a little bit. Now once we get this bolt tightened down and we get the one right behind it, we're going to go ahead and come back and torque them both down. All right, we have that bolt tight. Let's go ahead and continue to tighten down this bolt here. All right, this bolt is tight. Let's go ahead and torque these down to 148 foot-pounds. Here we go. Let's go ahead and lower down our pull jack here and remove it. Now for our back bolt here, we're going to put our socket on here with a long extension. And what we're going to do is simply just pull that bolt towards us to get that to line up. And then we're going to tap that up like so. With that bolt pressed up and through, let's go ahead and install the nut. I'm going to put my 19mm wrench on the top, and we're going to tighten the bolt on the bottom. And we're going to torque the bolt itself to 100 foot-pounds. We want to now go ahead and install our ball joint. Get that lined up. Go ahead and get the nut started. Get that bolt started up in here. Now that we have the hardware installed, let's go ahead and snug them down. Want to go ahead and torque these down to 68 foot-pounds. Let's go ahead and install our front splash shield. Before we secure those there, let's go ahead and install the plastic push pin here. With that locked in, we can now go ahead and secure the two bolts here. Just snug them down. Now we have our splash shield up in place underneath here, and what I'm going to do is install the 4 Phillips head screw retainers here. Run those up and just gently snug that. I'm going to get the other one started. And these will hold this in place while we go ahead and get the other bolts. Let's now install our 3 bolts on the front side here. We're going to get these started, and then we'll come on back and snug them down. Now on the front outer edge here, we're going to install the plastic nut on the stud. Now something like this here, you want to use your hand ratchet. You don't want to use a power tool when tightening this because it is plastic and you can strip it. So we're just going to get that one started. Let's continue on to installing the plastic push pins throughout the bottom. There's 3 right down the middle here. And then there's 1 towards the middle of the car, right in the cross member here, or cross beam. We use our 12mm socket here. I want to gently snug these down. Using your 10mm socket, let's go ahead and snug down the plastic nut on the front side here. Just snug it down gently. Install the axle nut. Go ahead and snug that down. Now we went ahead and cranked out our wheel so that we have a rearward shot at this axle nut. We do have to torque it. So what we're going to do is we're going to throw on a couple lug nuts here. Make sure that they are adjacent to each other. And we're going to go ahead and grab a pry bar. Rotate this here. I want to go ahead and torque this down to 217 foot-pounds. I'm going to use my pry bar. That way there we don't damage the studs for the lugs here. And then go ahead and torque. Remove the lug nuts. When performing this job here, it is recommended that you replace the axle nut. With these removed, we're now going to go ahead and dimple the axle nut so it doesn't come off. And we're just going to use a chisel tip right here, tap that over. Now at this point here, we can go ahead and install your wheel. Don't forget to bring your vehicle down and get the alignment performed after you alter or replace any suspension component. Install the wheel. Let's go ahead and get all of our lug nuts started. Once we have them all started, we'll come on back and snug them down. Let's go ahead and snug them down. Do not over tighten. Let's now go ahead and torque down our lug nuts to 76 foot-pounds. I prefer to do this in a crisscross pattern. and you're all set.
When only the best will do, demand TRQ. The only company that lets you view before you do. TRQ is committed to offering the highest quality aftermarket auto parts that are engineered for peace of mind. Thanks for using and viewing with TRQ.